This fourth episode of the Alex Henry Foster podcast was taken from a live stream presented on March 22nd, 2020. You'll hear about the release of the international version of Windows in the Sky and what are the very special additions to its track listing. Secondly, Alex will share about the new single from that album and therefore go in depth about the song The Hunter. What inspired it, the recording process, the different versions of the song, its pivotal position on the record, and also how it is so aligned with where he's at in his life.
Hi guys, I hope you're doing good. Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm right now in the Upper Room studio for a special Alex Henry Foster live stream, and I am of course with Alex. How are you doing?
Very good. Very good. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very much for inviting us in your place. For those of you who may not know, the Upper Room studio is a church that you have transformed into a studio. This is also where you live. It's the band's HQ in some ways. So quite a very special place, to be honest. And you've been back here for approximately a week now. You were on tour, you went all over Europe, and you've come back quite amidst international crisis, to be honest. So I guess somehow this place is a little bit of a self-quarantine zone for you.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, not only that, but I was supposed to go
Yes.
to Japan for a week of
Exactly.
promotion because my album has been released a few days ago already.
Yeah.
And so since
This
the
past Friday.
and since the situation was very difficult for so many of my friends, and honestly, I was wondering, should I do that live? What should I do? But talking with a lot of my friends, they told me, no, it's important to keep embracing life regardless of what's going on, because a lot of people, and I'm very supportive and I'm very sensitive about all of you guys that may have lost loved ones, and I know that some people are struggling to keep their job, and there's a lot of confusion right now. So I thought it would be that would be my way just to bring a little brightness, a little bit of light in all of that with a very modest and humble intent.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us.
It's difficult to talk about that, for real. At the very beginning, I was wondering, okay, so how should I address that situation without being like too? I didn't want to go into like, oh, it's very severe. I need to really, address that as it is, because it is very dramatic. And at the same time, should I be like happy about being here? So that's very. That's how it goes. But that's me. I mean, that's being honest right now, just to address that thing. And I just didn't want to keep going, like pretending that I'm not uncomfortable, but I'm very happy.
Mixed emotions then.
Yeah, but I mean it's strange. Even for me, I wasn't able to go to Japan. I was very disappointed. But at the same time, I mean, it's very selfish in a way, because even though it was very important for me, I was very excited, and I knew what it meant for my friends in Japan to release the record there and to go there, and it was so positive. But at the same time, I know that we need to be we need to be more sensitive about those who are suffering, but also now, because the situation evolved at such a fast pace. So even for me, I'm not even able to go back home, because here's the studio, and this is where we are all the band together, because we came back from Europe, and we had to comply also and to be responsible regardless in the midst of all this situation. But even for me, I'm not even able to go back home, because I live in the States now, and the borders are closed. So that's why it's troubling for everybody. Even though my situation is very, I put that in a different context, and I'm only like the singer of a rock band. So anyway, so that's my way to for you to see that it's real, and it's gonna be okay.
Well,
The fun part will come.
Once again,
All
thank
right.
you very much for having us.
That being said,
So, as you've said, your album "Windows in the Sky" is now available in Japan. You've also released a single for the rest of the world with "The Hunter," which is a 3-song EP actually, and music video coming up. And just a little later, in a few minutes or a few dozens of minutes,
we'll see,
after the interview that you and I are going to have together about all of this, you will perform the song "The Hunter" live with your band, The Long Shadows. So guys, stay tuned. Make sure you do not miss that. The live performance is truly an incredible sight to behold. It's a gem, and I can say that for sure because I've been on tour with you.
Don't put too much pressure.
No,
it's all about the moment.
All right, so your album, Windows in the Sky, available in Japan now. Coming soon for the rest of the world on April 17, except for United States. For you guys, it's going to be on May 1st. So it's been released in Canada already for a little over a year. And so why Japan?
Yeah, I think for those of you guys who were a bit more intimate with me, you know that Japan has been very special to my heart, and it was important for me to progress with all the releases in a way that it would very be aligned with who I am. I didn't want to go back into all the business of it all, and I didn't want to pressure myself into fitting the mold, and I really want to make I wanted to appreciate every step of the way, especially that at the very beginning I didn't know if I wanted to release that record or not, even in Canada. And after that, sharing those songs with the people and understanding that those songs grew way beyond the emotions that actually gave birth to those songs. So after that, it was important to keep that motion. And for me, Japan was a natural second step. And I was very excited about it too. Not only that, but the pre-premiere was in Japan, in Tokyo as well.
You've held an event, for people who may not know, before the actual album release in Canada. Alex has held an event in Tokyo for people to listen to the album from beginning to end, like before everyone else.
Yeah, I think it's also the reason why I'm releasing the record in Japan was also to honor the support that people really gave me at that very moment. It was very critical because I was still very reluctant to release the record. I was very hesitating. I didn't know if I had the courage to go that way. And having the fact that we shared that moment in Tokyo and to see people's reaction, and there was so much affection, so much support, and I think that embracement of me as a person, I think that it's also my way to say thank you and to keep that stream of life going. So that's the reason.
And quite a stream, to be honest, because
it's been quite a trip so far. To be very honest.
There's been that listening in Tokyo pre-listening session, and then the release in Canada. You've had your very first live performance as Alex Henry Foster in Montreal, and then followed a few concerts in Germany, New York, came back to Montreal in between, New York, and then that European tour. Now the album is available.
So much for a guy who didn't want to tour the record, right?
Yep, so much for that. But I think it's really interesting, especially now that this international version that is being released everywhere, that's available now in Japan, features songs from that first concert that you've done in Montreal, from the Montreal International Jazz Festival.
That was important for me to add the extension, the natural extension of the record for the international version, because the reason is when I recorded the record at first, Windows in the Sky, it was very personal. It was some kind of a whisper in a way that I needed to. It it was life slowly taking its place again. And slowly those songs, from perspective, from sharing, from the communion with the people as well, from what they were sharing with me, really taking ownership of those emotions, and to giving me, and the way they gave me the courage to keep going, and really stand by those words and songs. So that first step after, which was the very first moment in Montreal when I performed those songs, I wanted to give a glimpse as well by adding those songs, a few of those songs at least, to the international version. And that was very important for me, because when I performed those songs, I was still very in a state of confusing in a way, because I didn't know if I wanted to keep doing it. I felt a bit uncomfortable. I was a bit odd. Yeah, I was a little off. I wanted really to focus on the moment, but there was so many things to think about.
Yeah.
But at the end, just the fact that I've been able to embrace that moment in front of my friends, families, people who knew my father, his friends. So I think that was a big step for me into embracing those songs, and allowing me to say it's okay to live those emotions. So that's why I wanted to add those songs, like a little glimpse of what it was like, that little step into the live world.
A little bit of the evolution of the songs and their nature.
Yeah.
In some sort. Yeah. But that's really interesting, and I think that people will be really able to feel the different nuances that are in the songs from the original album to the live album somehow.
Yeah, because
and I think
at the beginning, the color was like very, very bright, very vivid. And now I'm in a place with a little bit of the perspective in my personal life, and also because of the privilege that I had to share those emotions with the people night after night. So now I'm able to see the different shades of those colors, if I may say. So, and that's quite a big thing for me, because at first it was really like, okay, the record is out. I did my job. I was very scared, but then I did it, and then I don't want to look at it, and then suddenly I realized that boom, the wave came back. People embraced the record, so then it became like a hit record in Canada. I was like, whoa, this is what's going on. I was like completely like stunned, and then I had to take a step back and then go back again and say, okay, so let's embrace it, and let's stand behind those words. And commune those words with others. And now I'm in that very emancipating kind of motion with the songs and performing live and sharing with the people.
And this is something that I want to talk about just a little more. But before that, I would like for you to tell us about the song, The Hunter in itself, and really like its meaning. And let's start with the meaning.
Yeah, Hunter is it's a very pivotal moment in the record, because most of the songs, of the words at least, have been written while I was living in Tanger for 2 years, in some sort of an exile I had to take from the world I was living in, and I wrote The Hunter when I was living in Virginia, in the highlands, in the middle of all the trees and in the mountains, a very peaceful place. And suddenly it was in the moment where I was able to take a step back in a way and just to look. So instead of like being like the main character, or my emotions to be the main character, of those songs, suddenly I was able to look a bit from like a different kind of perspective, and it became like a narrative. at the beginning, and really something that I was actually witnessing in the middle of that place, like hearing like hunters going down, and all the like hearing like gunfire. All those things were like really happening live as I was writing it, because
So they're inspired, like the text is inspired by real life events and
yeah,
stuff
exactly.
that you've
And then I
heard
started to think about it, just to say, okay, well, that was a real interesting scenario, because it also it was a reflection of what we are trying to touch, or what we are trying to embrace, what we are trying to follow in our personal lives. And suddenly I was using that as only some kind of a reflection of, or an excuse to talk about different layers in life. So and realizing that we can be like outside looking in, but we are also inside looking out, and we are both the hunter and the prey in so many ways, because at one point you need to let go, you need to make peace with the past, you need to embrace the moment, you need to really close your eyes and to say, well, and I've closed my eyes, and then suddenly you can see whatever your life could have been, or so what are you thinking at the very last moment, or what are you thinking when you're touching something that you think would be very special and you've been looking for all your lives, and suddenly it doesn't make you happier. So that was all those questions that doesn't require any kind of answers, that became the song.
And so this
Does it make sense?
It does. It does make sense. But I'm very curious, because you just talked about this part of the lyrics, and I've closed my eyes, and it follows by "in peaceful glimpses of pure white sky." And you said, like, in the end, when you look back into your life, is it like a last moment type
But
of
I think
song
it could
for
be
you,
like
or
it could be like a last moment, and like a first moment when you're completely aware of what's going on. Just like innocence.
okay,
And sometimes innocence is we're relating to innocence back to our childhood, or like moments that are very, very, like very special or very unique for like a split second, that we can say, oh wow, okay, this is it. So for me, it was like being to lay down and just to take like a little, just to breathe in and to breathe out, and just say, wow, okay, this is, and realizing, that this is a moment of peace. Even though it could be like your last moment, or it might be the first moment of your life when you're fully understanding or embracing what life is about. So there's a lot of paradox, a lot of contradiction, as well as life is, but also in the very ongoing stream of that narrative between a hunter and a prey, and when a prey is basically giving itself away, as much as when the hunter is realizing that he's taking a life, and he needs to understand or try to figure what that life was about. And sometimes it's our illusions, sometimes it's our dreams or hope, and we need to let go of things that we thought were important, or that we believe were defining ourselves. But suddenly, once we let go, we realize that maybe that the end of that cycle is the beginning of something way more important. But we never had the courage to embrace, and we need to how can I say, to kill it in a way. We need to completely, like, okay, well, this is it, it's over, in order to embrace something, a new beginning.
Yeah. So there's a lot of
There's a lot of things, right? That's why it's a long song.
a 14-minute song, which
Exactly,
is
well.
not very common, but
And it's a
yeah,
25 minutes version live.
exactly.
Yeah.
But you guys managed to do a 4-minute song as well for this single.
Yeah, that was
radio
fun,
edit
actually.
version.
That was fun. I don't know if we should talk about this, but that you need to understand, guys. When we were I think. Well, anyway, we were somewhere. We were somewhere in Europe, and Ben and I were talking about Ben, who's like the guitar player and my creative partner, and we were talking about because a lot of people are asking, so it's a single, but it's crazy. It's like a 14-minute song. Doesn't make sense. And I was talking with Ben, and as we were laughing, we said, well, let's try to figure what a less than a 4-minute song would be. And so we were backstage and we were like cutting the song and we were laughing and not laughing because we take that lightly, but because it was just like crazy to do that. And we were really going instinctively and trying to figure what a little part of that story could be in a 4-minute format.
Yeah.
So, and we managed to do it.
You did.
Yeah, and it was it's cool. Actually, I really liked it.
Yeah. But I think it's really funny because in the first place, as you said, the live version is a 25-minute song and the album version is 14. And then we've got that radio kind of edit that's under 4 minutes. But the 14-minute song, the one that appears on the album, is one that you've said previously, it initiated from a live version, a jam session that you guys had together, and then you kind of pieced it out. And then
but actually, I didn't piece anything out. What I did was, when we, and it's very, it's I won't say that's how we operate because it looks like a formula, which it ain't. But for me, when we're rehearsing, and it's been at the very center of what I do as a creator and an artist. But for me, it was like, okay, well, those are the emotions, and this is and let's focus on that. And what you refer as piecing out, it's for me the only edit we did on a song is when it was clear at one point after we completely let go and we truly dwell all together, the six of us in the moment, at one point after 14 minutes, I realized that, suddenly we were like establishing a format and we were also becoming more aware of ourselves. And since the guys are amazing musicians, so suddenly it was becoming about the parts. And suddenly it was becoming about, how amazing they are with their instruments. And so that's what for me was like becoming aware, and when you're becoming aware, you're becoming ambitious. And I wanted to really to keep myself as far as possible from ambition on the record. So that's why for me it was just like, that was the edit that I did, because and the rest of it is really the live take before all that wonderful and amazing display of musicianship that I didn't want on the record anyway.
Well, all that to say, like, the album is really well played too.
Yeah, but it's not about that. But
no,
for me, I know what you mean. But for me, that's
there's a difference between.
Yeah, I didn't want to really again just to let's go and we need to I didn't want it to be a performance.
Exactly.
Let's put it that way. And a performance for me, it's when everybody slowly break down, and then like guitars and break up, and then we keep going, and let's there's the part for the keyboards, and suddenly everything is like a formula, and me, I didn't want it. So I really wanted to keep it real and honest. And I wasn't looking for something. It's weird to say, but I wasn't looking for something good. The only thing that I was looking for was something real, something honest. So, and I was very scared, especially with long songs, because it's human nature. It's normal at one point we kind of look at each other and this is boom, guitar solo, and then all those things. And I was like, I didn't want to do anything with it. I didn't want to to have anything to do with it. And that's the same thing when I recorded like the vocals.
Yeah.
That was the same thing.
Yeah.
Because we were back in Virginia at home, and we went in a very small room. And again, I could have stayed here. We have like an amazing professional studio, and with all the mics and all the things that makes it like wow. But for me, it was about something else. And so I was with Ben again, and Ben brought like enough material to pretend that it was a professional recording. And he trusted me in that way, because it you know, it's clear that it was strange. It was a strange approach, but I wasn't trusting myself to go back and change everything after.
How was it strange? Like
Because
why?
I'm and maybe if you're talking with the rest of the boys, they'll tell you that in studio, I mean, I'm making everybody crazy about all those little things, all the little noise, so usually like 10 to 12 years of Your Favorite Enemies in the studio with me trying to, you know, spending like maybe 5 hours to for something that nobody will hear. It's, you know, it could be like a bit too much, you know? But so that's why for the record, I just wanted something else that would be really instinctive, spontaneous, that I would know it's right, because it's exactly how I felt at that very moment. And that's what we did. So Ben just like put a microphone there, and it was supposed to be what we call like a ghost vocal, just to okay, are we good with the volumes and the EQs and everything. And suddenly that was it, you know. At the end it was like, okay, well, this is the track, and Ben was just like, what? So, and that was it. You know?
You mean like this is it? Like this is what goes on the album?
Yeah.
And it was the first time for you to do it like this?
Yeah, I just like, I had like the lyrics, which were part of like a longer piece, like a short story that I wrote. So that was like one angle from the story, and really I went there, and I just like, I go with the music, and I just let go.
Immediately that this was it, like this.
I don't know if I knew, but the moment I had, what I knew was the fact that I would have tried to replicate that over and over again, and only be frustrated that I can't, because it would have been as spontaneous, as real, even though sometimes, you know, it was just okay, you know, it could have been different, obviously, if I would have kept like working on it, but that wasn't the point. And even at one, and it was funny because I had my dogs were there, and at one moment it becomes like very emotional in the song, and one of my dogs, Makai, just like jumped on me, just like, whoa, what's going on, you know? Are you okay? It's weird. Because they're used to be with me in the studio, but it's a different setting.
Yeah.
But then we were home, and Alex is not supposed to scream like that, you know. So he jumped on me, and I kept going. And Ben had his back on me, and so he didn't know what happened. So when Makai realized that I wasn't reacting and I kept going, so then he jumped from the back on Ben, and then on the recording we were able to hear like Ben say, "Whoa, what's going on?" You know, and that's the only edit we did basically.
Yeah.
And since we were working on a different project, and with Momoka, who's there, was one of my collaborators as well, and with like all the Japanese elements, she was there. And when I heard the music, I said, "Oh, okay, that would be cool to add something." And just to try something a little off. And then I went to see Momoka, and I said, well, is it possible for you to translate that part and to, you know, those are the places where I want you to say, just to see. And then she was like, what? Completely unaware she would be on the record, completely unprepared. And at the end, I was like, okay, perfect. Same thing, one track. This is what I'm looking for. And she says, yeah, but what are you looking for? Doesn't make any sense. That was like a practice. So that was the mindset of the Hunter. And it needed to be that way because I don't think if I would have like really overanalyzed the thing, I would have completely ruined it. And that was the same thing when we did like the mixing and bending and that tremendous job, because I didn't want him to turn that into like a mix with the master kind of thing. It needed to keep that freshness. Because I didn't want to be like overproduced, overmixed with all those beautiful things. And so I just wanted to be I wanted to be the perfect embodiment of what the song was about when we recorded it. So that was really, really the thing. So that's why the song is very special, and I think it represents a lot of the record, and it's like the turning point in the last in the second half of the record, and which is for many people like releasing that song.
You mean where
right now it's just like, whoa, it's strange,
It's a turning point.
Because it starts, it's very personal. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of despairs in many ways. And then slowly, I'm able to understand a few things through that song. And then, it migrates to a different incarnation of those emotions, or at least a different perspective. So, or maybe I'm assuming a little bit more right after. Or it is the beginning of the light slowly becoming, because the record is not, it's a very tough pill to swallow at first. I'm not, it's true when you're starting from your favorite enemy's last album, which is Tokyo Sessions.
Tokyo Sessions, yes.
And then you listen to Windows in the Sky, you're just like, what happened? And this is not some kind of like an ego trip of me, like it needs to be different because it's a solo record. It's just the perfect, honest reflection of what I was going through, and I recorded all those songs in the same order as of the record. That's something else also that nobody knew. That for me, it's really a journey, and every song, when you take those songs individually, it's a journey in itself. So, and I kept going and progressing, and as I was progressing, I was able to, from one track to another, to let go, to abandon myself, to understand a little bit more where what it was all about, without any kind of ambition to prove anything or to turn it into something that it wasn't, because I didn't know anything about it at that point. Only like the journey that I was going through, basically. Yeah. So anyway, it's a lot of people are there in the technical, just like with like time. And so it's been 31 minutes, 58 seconds that I'm talking. So everybody's very excited about me going there. That's what people, I guess, are interested in.
Yeah, so...
But we can keep going, but this is like the time frame. It's like the 32 minutes time frame.
Yeah, well, maybe we can just go ahead with one question.
Go ahead.
Because there are major differences between the way the song on the album is and how it is played live. So I think it touches a little bit what you've just talked about the Hunter being like a turning point, somehow of you understanding the emotions better. But from the moment you recorded that album to now to today, how has the song evolved for you?
But I think it's a very difficult question to answer, because for me it's all about living the moment. Just like now, I'm kind of joking. Okay, it's been 30 minutes, because at one point I don't want this to be all about me, and I still feel not only uncomfortable, but it's still a process for me, and I feel like more that I'm talking about it, it's like if I would try in my nature to find some absolute to describe it. And again, that album is about emancipation. It's about it's really a very deliberate and scream to say, I want to be free. I want to. I don't want that life anymore. I want to touch something else. And the live experience, I guess, is kind of the renaissance after that. It's like after a long night for what felt like an everlasting moment of confusion, suddenly you realize, hey, this is, whoa, what's going on? What it's all about? What all that light is all about? And suddenly it's morning. And this is, live it's embracing a little bit of that light, a little bit more every day, a little bit more every time, but without turning it into like a formula again, without turning every one of those performances into performances. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
And that's very difficult. And that's why I'm very concerned about. That's why I didn't want to tour that record, because I didn't want for those very intimate, personal, and meaningful songs to lose their nature and their essence. And I didn't want to turn that thing into, the rock and roll circus I felt trapped in for so many years before. And that's why it's about embracing every moment for what it is, and to be very focused on the moment. And it's tough. It's I think it's easier for me, easier being like a strange word in that context, but I think it makes more sense, I would say, to share with the people live when there's actually people there, because we can establish a connection, we can define a common language. So, and when we were talking about performing a song live and streaming, in my head it was like, oh, that would be strange, because suddenly it's like I didn't want it to be acting. I didn't want it to be like, okay, well, it's live stream. It needs, it's clearly weird that, there's all those emotions cannot be translated into a common language. So I'm still trying to make peace with all that and at the same time. And it's tough. It's difficult. I'm already freaking out about, just
but
what,
are you
what
happy
happened.
you're gonna be
But I'm super
performing?
happy. But it's part of that process of honesty. And if I'm not honest with myself, then I keep feeding people lies, and people will feel it. And once you feel it, there's no possible connection, and there's no possible common language to be created. So that's why. But this is really, even for me, I was just like I said, the guys a little earlier. I said, well, that was a wonderful idea when we thought about it, but now that we actually are alive and this is really what's going on now, I'm suddenly like, was it really that much of a good idea? We could have talked about it for so long. We could have showed images of the video, and that would have been awesome. But then I'm turning here, and this is it. This is real,
So I guess it's time for you to develop a new kind of common language.
Yeah, exactly.
One from a distance, and then it's going to be time for a live performance of the song The Hunter by the Seaside Window. From the Upper Room studio, you are watching Alex Henry Foster and the Long Shadows performing the song The Hunter by the Seaside Window from the album Windows in the Sky.
A gun has been fired. Echoes to the mountain can lie. The hunters have been tracking their praise. The snow still flickering through cold winter sky, and the blood on the ground is slowly disappearing. Oh, the hunter is coming. December's falling down, and time seems suddenly to